Hi, it's Joe Morgan with the Tech Leader Spotlight podcast, where we interview tech leaders to learn about their journey and leadership lessons learned along the way. This show is brought to you by the Tech Professional Money Operating System, where we help tech professionals who know they're doing well financially, but want to make sure they're making the most of everything that they have so that they don't have to worry about their money so much. So what we do is we invest cash wisely, we make the most of stock awards, minimize your tax bill, and create clarity and confidence so you can spend less time worrying and more time living the life you want. If you'd like more information, look me up on LinkedIn. That's Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Today, I'm very excited to have on the podcast Prankur Gupta, who is a software engineer at Meta Platforms. And he's an experienced leader who specializes in building reliable, observable infrastructure for hyperscale systems. Welcome to the podcast, Prankur.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell me about that phrase, building reliable, observable infrastructure for hyperscale systems. What does that phrase mean to you?
The phrase to me actually means like when you are operating at like a hyperscale, when you're talking about like millions and millions of servers, right? Things can go wrong and production is always Wild West. When an issue happens, what do you what do you do to like mitigate the issue or like fix in a very quick way is like most important for like a hyperscale because they have like SLOs attached or like they have customers impacted. They want to like minimize all these things, right? Basically. But without the data which backs up, okay, this issue happened because these are the signals which showcase something is going wrong. How do you capture all these? And when you are talking about a huge scale, you can't just store every signal from each and every host. uh, it would just take up all the storage away. You have to aggregate it, all these signals, and then build specialized aggregators and like be able to like understand, okay, if this signal is fired, I have a way to like understand what actually changed into the code base which resulted in that. So we have to tie up with like all the rollouts happening. And when you're talking about hyperscale, we have like multiple teams doing like a lot of rollouts in parallel, right? So understanding which thing landed first, what issue happened first, it's like really a nightmare when you're talking about. So yeah, so building systems with like reliability, meaning like, okay, you have invested a lot before actually rolling it out into production. I mean, like you have tested all the scenarios, you have like canaryed it or like dog fooded it into like production host to like understand how your software stack actually works in actually production before actually rolling it out. And then if you roll out, again, we understand production is always Wild West, things can go wrong. Then how do you gather the signals of the changes which you have done? So observability. So building those two things from start from your software is like very important when you're talking about hyperscale. Yeah.
Hmm. So it's building it in the first place so you don't have those emergencies, but of course things are going to happen. But then also when you have those emergencies, are you also sort of like I got the image of a fireman coming in and trying to put out the fire and fix
Yes.
things? Is that kind of so you're doing both of those?
So yeah, again, so here a distinction which I would like to call out, at least in Meta platform, is like uh, once you are the owner of your stuff at the forefront, but the you should be also be involved in like what are the other things that can be influenced by your own software. Okay, so basically, so we have to be held accountable of like anything which is going wrong within our like 2 or 3 degrees of our software stack basically. So think from our use case, we have a software which does a lot of a network transport tunings and stuff. So in the essence, we touch a lot of these important services which can affect a lot of revenue for Meta basically. So yeah, we have to be always be uh, very careful on like rolling it out. And then if anything goes wrong, we are the first line of defense. Okay, because we are touching the network at like every layer of the network. Okay, can you explain, is this issue actually caused by your rollout or not? So without the data backing you, we can't make all those claims, right? Basically, so we have to build all these things from the ground up with like the reliability and observability in mind.
Got it. Okay, great. Well, with such great responsibility, I'm excited to get your answer to our first typical question, which is, what does leadership in the tech space mean to you?
Okay, good question. Okay, so leadership in tech, from my point of view, it isn't a one size that fits all. Basically, different bets requires actually different approaches in leadership. Sometimes leadership means like getting your hands actually dirty, rolling up your sleeves, going deep into like the problem space, understand the context, and maybe build a proof of concept solution yourself. And before you get a green light from like all the stakeholders and stuff, and then you have to like figure out, okay, I got this thing working. Now I have to build a team and then think about like scaling this product for the intended audience or the customers and stuff. And other times it's just about like people. Do I have the right team? How do I help them thrive? And like the priorities actually shift. For example, me like we were doing like really good in like one area of like the software stack, but the entire org had like this huge pivot to like another direction, so we have to like move our entire team onto these like new projects in which we had no idea about. Now as a leader you have two options: build a team from the ground up, but then it incurs cost in terms of time cost or like money cost for like hiring resources and stuff. But what if your other team, I have like the other team who have like, what do we say, like superstars who are like they're crushing their work in their known area. Now how do I motivate those people to pivot into like this new area in which they have no experience or idea
Hmm.
about, right? But I also need to take into account, because every individual has its own growth trajectory, right? I mean, like they had this like notion of like they want to do with the career in advance, to keep them actually motivated and to help them shine in this completely new area. So yeah, this is also a leadership aspect which I really like. Building alignment with their own growth trajectory is a harder work, but if you can like sell it and provide those opportunities to the people, you can have like the same rock stars with the rock stars into like the new role and stuff.
Yeah,
And
so it's like a win-win-win, right? The company wins, you win, the employees win.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a little bit hard.
I was going to say, how often have you experienced that?
Actually, with this like recent AI pivots and stuff, it has been like a little bit more frequent. But yeah, a priorities changes based on like how the industry is moving and stuff. So it has been a little bit frequent. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about the tech industry, not being from tech. And I've said this many times on the podcast before, but there's a lot of collaboration in tech. Like there's a lot of teamwork, and it's really the only way it works. And I haven't experienced that so much myself because that's not the way it works in finance. When you go through your career in finance, unfortunately. And so that's why I like having these conversations. So I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Anything else on leadership?
I think one thing which I really hold close to my heart is like holding yourself accountable for the decisions which you have made. I totally understand when we make any decision, there may be like a lot of various reasons for which were part of the decision, maybe some advices which we got or we got influenced. But in the end, we have to understand like it is the decision which I made, and I actually hold myself responsible of like all the decisions. So yeah, this is a trait which I really think is underappreciated in like leadership. But yeah, I really want it to be like the most important trait of my leadership, basically.
Yeah, no, that's so important. Integrity is something that I feel like culturally is frankly drifting away. And just generally speaking, I don't mean in tech, I mean just generally in the culture. And so I think as that happens more, people will value it more, right? Because
Yeah.
they'll understand how important it is. So I love hearing that. And that's something that we have not heard on the podcast before. So um, great tip. With all the challenges on the job market today, the layoffs, and those are continuing, it seems. What advice would you give someone who's trying to build resiliency in the face of layoffs?
Okay. Yeah, I think, yeah, there's no better answer. I think you would have heard in your podcast. But yeah, basically the three things which I always think on my own, right? The ordering may be different from like individual's perspective and stuff. But yeah, the first thing which I would really highlight would be like proactively manage your network. Reach out to people in your field regularly, maybe just even for a quick check-in or stuff. Attend conferences and stay visible, basically. Because, like we know, right, most of the roles when they open up are actually filled through referrals,
Mm,
not cold applications, basically. So think about your network is your safety net. Keep in touch with your ex-colleagues or the people who share the same interest in the same tech stack as you, sharing and learning about like what you are doing, understanding what the other persons are doing. Just have like a proper a communication channel ongoing. It helps us build a bond. So, and always help others also, so that people will help you eventually later on, right? This is what the community is all about, basically. Right. And the other thing which I always think is, it's like keep upgrading our skills.
mm,
Would to me, I think every individual as like a software which need a regular upgrades. But one thing which is often forgotten or like not talked about a lot is like be mindful of like what you are upgrading yourself to. Having a good overlap of your old skill set with the new skill will generally be more productive than just learning an entirely new skill set. It's from my own experience also, basically. So also me like I tend to think I may be wrong in this idea, but majority of the people can be bucketed into like these two categories, which are like a masters of like one thing or jack of many trades.
mm.
If you are a true expert of something, which of course it's still relevant, you will eventually find a role. Because if you are an expert of something which is relevant into the industry, people will hire you. You will not go unnoticed. But those, I think the majority of us are like jack of our many trades with like little bit mastery of like only few things. So we treat us as more of like a journalist. We need
Mm.
to continuously level up. By leveling up, it totally depends on the decade to decade era. Right now, leveling up is like going AI native and stuff. But I would still recommend everybody to like always be adding on top of your own old skill set so that you can actually use all your experience which you have accumulated over the years, which will actually help you.
Yeah,
And the third and the foremost is basically mostly like the financial and like psychological readiness, basically, right? The standard advice which everybody gives is like have a rainy fund of like 6 months and stuff. But as you know, with the uncertainty in the job market and layoffs happening very frequently, now we have a very large talent pool accumulated, right? So I would recommend everybody to have like think about like 1+ years of like rainy day cash, and be a little bit more mentally uh, mostly to strengthen your mental fortitude, because
mhm.
layoffs can happen to actually good people also, right? It's in human tendency to like think about like, okay, me like what could I've done better to avoid things in the past and stuff. So don't do a lot of these thinking. Don't spiral into like how you could have changed your past and stuff. It happened. Think about you are living in your present, plan for the future. The sooner you internalize that, the faster you will be able to bounce back. Yeah, these are the things which I would highlight from my side. Yeah.
That's great. So proactively manage your network, keep upgrading your skills, and build your financial and psychological readiness.
Yeah.
All great tips. One of those things I want to dive into real quick, if you're willing. Um, Under upgrading skills, you mentioned that we can be masters or we can be jack of all trades. And you said something super interesting to me, which is that most of us are jack of many trades, or the way I took that is we're drawn to be jack of many trades. Why do
Yes.
you think we're drawn that direction?
I think it's the nature of the industry right now, right? Maybe like with AI stuff also, me like the expectation is like, okay, you have this project, you have to take like multiple hats of like different roles and stuff and like make it happen, right? And with going by taking a lot of these other tasks and stuff, you tend to like increase your breadth rather than your depth. People
Mhm.
spend ages or like decades to like understand like the depth of an ecosystem, which is like really not the thing which is like promoted well in this job market and stuff. But yeah, if you think about like the Linux kernel specialists, right, they have like knowledge of like, okay, how do you do these things properly? Those are like, okay, if someone is building a new hardware, right, they will hire that person. They won't want to hire a jack of many trades, basically, right? But those are like niche areas. So majority of the people tends to focus on to like, okay, I can do this A, B, C, X, Y, Z, so I can adapt myself to like the role which is actually needed, which is also fantastic, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it does, it really depends what situation comes up. And plus, I think some people are suited one way or the other as well. But I do agree that, if you're a master of something that's at all in demand, you will eventually find a place for you. It may not be the best place or the right place, but then it will bridge you to what that next step might be. Very good comments. Okay, so third question, what's the most important financial decision you've made in your tech career, whether it's about compensation or taking a particular job or whatever it may be? What's the most important financial decision you've made?
Okay, interesting question. I think my answer may not be the one which I would recommend to a lot of folks, but yeah, this is what I do. I'm more of a rest and oh sorry, a vest and rest or like vest and forget type of a person with my equity and stuff.
Uh-huh.
I, I understand the risks associated with it, all eggs in one basket,
Right.
and the market will not let you breathe with that stuff with no diversification, and especially when you're talking about like a volatile stock and stuff. But here's my thinking, right? Basically, if I believe in a company, right, that's why I'm here, right? I believe in like the vision of the company or the future, at least the vision which I have been sold on. To me, it looks good, and I'm willing to take that risk. But again, in order to do that, you also have to make up your mind. So, from my point of view, I don't treat my vested stocks as income. To me, it's just like a locker with a glass. I can look at it, but I can't use it basically. I've thrown out the keys away into the ocean basically. And this is what our family mindset is also, right? Like we know about our income stream and we understand, okay, this is the lifestyle which we want to like have and stuff. We don't treat our test at all, basically. So this is what we actually earn. This is our budget. So we have to be inbound of our budget. So stock is a bonus, not a paycheck. So yeah, that helps us keep us the grounded basically. And
Great. So I just want to let's drive that home a bit. So stock is a bonus, not a paycheck. So you're able to pay your regular bills and for all the stuff you need without selling, at least not selling a lot of stock. Maybe from time to time you sell some. I don't know. You don't have to, share. But the point being that you live within the means of your salary and bonus.
yes, correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. If you can do that, that's terrific. But of course, comp systems across different firms and different areas, certainly of the country, vary. So go ahead. I interrupted you. You were going to
Oh,
add
no,
something
sure,
in.
sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Another thing which I wouldn't advise to other folks are like, so I actually entered the stock market like very, very late. So I have this mindset of like go big or go home, or like high risk high reward a mentality, right? But it's not just like any high risk companies. Mean like the companies in which I have done research, and again I am sold on the vision and the execution and stuff. So I'm willing to take high risk in my decisions, but again, mean like I understand it's a high risk. the money which I'm investing in those companies, I can lose it all overnight, and I should be fine with that, basically. There should not be like questions of like, okay, I've invested this money, now I depend on this money and stuff. No, we have all our family to take care of and stuff. So based on your risk appetite, I invest, and with only the money which I'm genuinely willing to lose, basically. Once you accept that, the pressure kinds of lifts and you can make actually better decisions.
Hmm.
Else, otherwise, I would highly recommend to like just invest in ETFs. Basically, that's the easiest investment decision.
Yeah. So I want to drive that one point home just before that one. If I lose it overnight, I'll be fine. That's
Yes.
so
Yeah.
so live within your means of your salary and bonus, invest aggressively above that, knowing that if it doesn't work out, I'll be fine no matter what. So
Yes. Correct.
so what I think is important as so I got to put on my financial planner hat a little bit here. Not directed so much at you, but directed at the audience, and that is that don't hear just half of that statement, right? Don't hear I should invest risk, with a lot of risk, and rely on that to pay my bills. No, that's not what Prankur is saying. Prankur has got a holistic view of controlling expenses to the point where his salary and bonus takes care of him. And so what he's taking risk with is what you might call extra funds. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay. You just go on to the next day and keep on working. Did I characterize that about right?
Yeah. Another thing which I want to like just put also is like I don't day trade and stuff. It's just like a long-term investing on the companies in which I have a long-term vision
And
and
you do a
stuff.
lot of research.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, great. Well, terrific. Thanks so much for sharing all of the details here, Prankur. This was very, very helpful conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Just as a reminder, this is sponsored by the Money Operating System, where tech leaders gain clarity and control of their finances so they can live out the rest of their lives with intention. If you want to know more about us, look me up on LinkedIn, Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life.